Welcome to Time of Death. This video is for informational purposes and in no way meant to glorify or condone violence. In today's video, we'll be discussing the murder of Albert Dwayne Kyle. Kyle was killed on Saturday, May 26, 2018, in the 10,700 block of South Main Street in the Broadway-Manchester neighborhood of South LA, according to LA County coroner records. Gerard Harrison and Dean Morgan were subsequently arrested and charged with the murder. The following is the evidence at trial. On May 26, 2018, Marvin Tart was in an apartment in the 10,700 block of South Main Street, where he had been living for several months. Different people lived in the unit during that period, including victim Albert Kyle, whom Tart knew as Tap. Tart was from Main Street Mafia but was no longer active and didn't know whether the victim had any gang affiliation. Tart and the victim were the only two people in the apartment. Before Tart went to sleep in one of the bedrooms, he observed the victim lying on the couch in the living room. Tart was woken up by a commotion and the sound of people fighting. Tart stuck his head out of the bedroom and observed blood all over the victim and on the floor. Tart initially testified that he could not tell who the victim was fighting with since he could only see the back of their head. He heard male voices and therefore believed the attacker was male. Tart returned to the bedroom and sat there for a moment. He then heard gunshots and hopped out of the window to try to get away. Tart ran to the back of the apartment complex and opened the gate to the parking lot, but there was no way of getting out. He returned to the apartment and re-entered through the window. After putting on his shoes and his jacket, he exited through the window again and headed towards the front gate of the apartment complex, where he observed the victim on the ground. Tart walked away but later returned to the apartment complex to make sure the police knew he had nothing to do with the crime. He told an officer he had not seen anything. 10,700 South Main Street is across the street from a police station. After receiving a report of the incident, officers arrived within approximately a minute and observed the victim lying face down on the street. Officers further observed the trail of blood leading to the apartment complex, and once they entered the gate, observed a large pool of blood near the victim's unit. While inspecting the exterior of the apartment, officers identified firearm casings in the grass at the front of the apartment building and discovered the firearm in the back parking lot. Officers also canvassed the area for suspects. They located defendant Morgan sitting on the porch of a home, looking a little bit nervous, kind of hyperventilating, and with bloodstains on his shirt. Morgan was unarmed and complied with the officer's commands. Later, officers located defendant Harrison, who was wearing a light gray shirt covered in blood. Harrison ran from the officers for a short distance and did not comply with their orders. After several minutes, officers were able to detain Harrison, who had a laceration to his right hand that was bleeding. Harrison was sweaty, nervous, out of breath, and upset. Officers recovered a folding knife from his front left pocket. Tart had several past felony convictions, including for burglary, possession of a firearm, and most recently, vehicle theft. When he was first arrested for the vehicle theft, detectives spoke with Tart and he denied knowing anything about this case. After he was in custody for several weeks, Tart spoke again with detectives and informed them that he saw what happened inside the apartment. He told the detective that he was in the apartment during the incident and that the man told him to go to the front while they handled their business. Tart further told detectives that he hid in the closet while the men were getting ready to leave. He told detectives that defendant Morgan had shot the victim and said the other man present was Deuce from Broadway's, whom he later identified as defendant Harrison. He also stated that he heard one of them say, "Shoot this motherfucker, don't let him out." Dr. Scott Lucy, a forensic pathologist, performed the autopsy and prepared the autopsy report. Dr. Lucy identified a total of 5 gunshot wounds and 16 sharp force wounds on the victim, the latter of which were a combination of stab and incise wounds. Of these wounds, 1 gunshot wound was fatal and 4 of the stab wounds were independently fatal. Defendants Morgan and Harrison contend that the evidence was insufficient to support the finding that the murder of the victim was premeditated and deliberate because there was no substantial evidence of prior planning or discussion about killing the victim, or that the killing was committed in the preparation of or an attempt to perpetrate robbery, as the prosecutor argued. Following the trial, the jury found defendants Morgan and Harrison guilty of first-degree murder and found all the allegations true. The jury also found Morgan guilty of possession of a firearm by a felon and unlawful possession of ammunition. On count 1, the court sentenced Morgan to 25 years to life plus 10 years for the firearm enhancement. On counts 2 and 3, the court sentenced Morgan to the middle term of 2 years to run concurrently for a total state prison term of 35 years to life. The court sentenced Harrison to 26 years to life plus 5 years consecutive for prior offenses, for a total state prison term of 31 years to life. Albert Dwayne Kyle was 49 years old at the time of death.